Hello, everyone. I'm Big Valancourt, and I'm joined by Jerry Tavernan and Kim Kingston for another episode of Hull Heartbeat. And our special guest of honor tonight or today is Paul Grotta. Paul, you want to introduce yourself?
How you doing, Paul Gratta? Born and raised in Hull my whole life. Contractor. Served the community many years in different positions, from planning board to board of assessors, Republican town committee, and there's a lot of stuff, a lot of committees.
Usually we start out with, and we don't have to certainly, but you take it wherever you want to go. How your family got here, like, and when you were little, like the first family member that settled here.
Okay, so my grandfather came here way back in the 1912, but he landed in Boston, not Ellis Island. So, and then he called his, he went back to Italy, he had a couple kids. So my father was an automatic citizen by his father being American citizen. So while he was never here in Italy, he was a citizen. So they were supposed to come in 39, but the war started. So they were stuck in Italy till 46, 47. And then my father, he came here with his mother and his brother. And then he went back. He ended up actually getting drafted. Being a citizen, they drafted him into the Korean battle. He's lucky he got stationed in Germany. So he was still occupied Germany. So it was 1951, too, probably. And then he went and met my mother, I guess, in 53. My mother came here on the Andrea Doria, the famous ship.
Oh, wow.
So this is 1954. It was June. It didn't sink till 56. So she was 6 months pregnant with me. So they had to lie about the age, and the pregnancy. You're not supposed to be over 4, I guess. And she landed there in June. I was born July 30th. And then in 55, the Andrea Doria didn't come here. It went to Argentina, I guess. And then in 56, it came here and sunk. It was hit by the Stockholm, which was a famous ship from the north of, the northern part of Europe. And it was actually decommissioned a couple of years ago as a tourist ship. So, and then obviously everything else. I was obviously born here so I could run for president, but I've been thinking of a couple of
citizen.
You just made it, though. You made it by a month.
Yeah. And that's
Really?
birthright citizenship, but I was born here to a parent who was legal. So,
it sounds like the Supreme Court's going to hold that up too.
That's awesome. And you guys settled where? Like your parents had a house in Hingham, right?
No, they actually lived in Hingham till my father's house my grandfather's house was getting built, and then they moved to Hull. So they moved to Hull in I'd say I don't know, 1950 probably, in that area.
So long time. When I had my first son, and he went for his first haircut, there was only one place to take him, and that was
Vito and Grotta, my brother and my father, Vincent's barbershop.
It was an experience that just you had to enjoy to be at. And I have a famous photo of my son Rocky, white blonde hair. He gets first haircut, holding a Playboy magazine, a shot of alcohol.
That's raucous.
It's a joke. I mean, that was the place that if you were 20, in your early 20s, mid 20s, late 20s, I mean, that's where everyone was.
Okay. Wow. So, Paul, can you tell us a little bit about? Obviously, you grew up here, but
great. So they school, all through the whole schools. It was played football and little baseball, and I was president of the whole band. And remember my senior year, the band leader, he had a stroke or something. I forgot what his name. Mrs. Zigner was his name. And so I was actually running the band. We had, you'd have the Thanksgiving Day, you all go down and roll to rally, we called it. And I did something wrong. I was supposed to get suspended. I forgot what I did. It wasn't anything serious. But as I'm walking down the hall, Mrs. Finger, who was sister to the principal, says, where's Paul going? He's getting suspended. He goes, no, he's not. Charlie Weiner. He's not. He's running the band. You deal with him later. He's running this rally. So I ended up doing the rally. So I ended up going to music school for a little while.
Oh,
and
cool.
I switched over to engineering.
What kind of engineering?
Excuse me.
Sorry, I didn't mean to boldly interrupt you, but I'm curious what kind of engineering.
architectural and civil. So I got both sides. And
Nice.
but before I went to Wentworth, Michigan, East Nazareth College to be a music teacher. And I took some courses at Berkeley School of Music, which wasn't accredited then. And then and then the Boston Conservatory of Music. And then I just realized music wasn't. I thought I was going to be the #1 sax player in the world, but it didn't work out. So then I switched over to engineering through a guy named Ernie Manelli talked me into it. I was in construction anyway. Ernie was a big builder. He did almost every seawall in Hull, Hingham, all the way down to the Cape.
Wow.
And he said, "You go get your engineering degree and come run my stuff." But end up being, I went to Wentworth, got my degrees. That time Wentworth was only a 2-year school, so I took some night courses and to get all the degrees I could get. So I ended up with an architectural engineering degree and a minor in civil engineering, and that's all you had. Now they have 4-year accredited courses. Wentworth's probably one of the best
Absolutely.
around.
It is, yeah.
It really is.
So you also got involved very young in Hull politics.
Yeah.
Right?
So
By the way, we're
good.
in Falls Trailer, which is a pretty special place to be. If you've been here before, number one. Number two, he's got more stories than anybody I know, and hopefully we just touch on a few more of them. But
So what happens is I'm in municipal planning. We're at Wentworth, and I forgot my teacher's name. I can't remember. Mr. Wise or whatever. I says, what governs zoning and stuff? We're just starting to learn a lot of that stuff. This is 1975 or so, and he says the local planning boards. So I said to him, I says, "Gee, I might run for planning board." So it was like 76. I said, "What are you going to give me if I run for planning board?" He goes, "I'll give you a half a grade. So if you had a B, I'll give you a B plus." So I says, "Well, if I win?" And he says, "What do you mean? What if you win?" So I said, "I'm going to run for planning board." I ended up winning. I was like probably 19, maybe 20. I was pretty young when I got elected. And my famous motto was, "We're going to give Hull some young blood." And I thought I could do a lot of good stuff. So, we're going to do this, do that. So one of the biggest things we did was we started the casino gambling subcommittee, and then we actually put it on the ballot. So we had a highlight bill and a casino gambling bill, and both passed 60% plus in Hull. So Hull was going crazy. The real estate market doubled all the prices.
what year was that?
It's in the late 70s, I'd say. And then
I've gotten about highlight.
Yeah, highlight didn't really get crazy, but we had that passed too. Pauletta, they call it, whatever. So then MGM, it got so close. MGM actually bought the Hall estate, 67 acres across the street from where I am. So on the Nantasket Ave, the Hall estate was purchased by MGM. The guy's name was Alvin Benedict. He was CEO. And we used to meet with him at Logan Airport, or he'd come to Hull. We also met with Steve Wynn. Steve Wynn
Fun. Yeah.
from the Golden Nugget at the time. And he said that, once they got the casino going, he would probably join MGM, whatever. So Steve Wynn says that he grew up in Hull as a kid. His grandfather was a guy named Louis Fox. Louis Fox was famous with the Surfs, Nantasket, Salisbury. Plus, he had Fascination, which was the only legalized gambling in Massachusetts. And I remember Louis. I picked up Steve Wynn at the Marshfield Airport one day. He lands in a jet helicopter, and it's so powerful that they had to keep him way out of the runway before he's flipping planes over. And I brought him to Hull. And he says, "You know a guy named Lenny Hirsch?" I says, "Yeah." He goes, "I want to see Lenny after we show me the properties and stuff." So I'll show where MGM was. We had like a McDonald's lunch in front of the Surf. The Surf was still in business. The Surf, fantastic. So he says, "That was my grandfather's place." And then he sold it to a guy named Bill Spence, who had the Rockland Trust Banks and stuff. So what happened was I go into Lenny's office. As we're walking in, Lenny looks at Steve Wynn, who's still the owner of the place in Boston, Encore. And he looks at him, he goes, "Lenny." And Lenny looked at him and says, "Stevie." I said, "You got to be shitting me. This guy, they know each other really." I thought they were shooting the shit. And all of a sudden, they go, "Oh, yeah, me and Steve go way back as grandfather." So Lenny, he had a lot of good connections. And Lenny loved the town. You can say what you want, but Lenny always thought of Hull #1. You know, he even though he had his ways of doing things, he always did love the town. And it's probably like our president who loves our country. And, a lot of people don't believe it, but, Lenny loved the town and Trump loved the country. So, it's a weird setup, but some people, they just do things different ways. But there's a lot of history here. So obviously the thing passed at Hull for the casino, and we had a governor knocked out named Dukakis. The guy who took over was Ed King. So Ed King started coming here all the time. So I'd be meeting with him regularly. And his friend was going to buy, a guy named A.J. Lang, he was going to buy the HRA property, which I think he had the down payment.
I was just going to say, this is all
It's unbelievable.
a few years after the HRA was formed, right?
Yeah, right. So this was in the, the time of the casino. So all of a sudden, what's his name? Ed King, who was the governor, he runs for re-election and he gets knocked out at the convention. Oh, no, sorry. He got knocked out at the special election, what they call the Democratic primary in September. And then he called right up and he tells me, he says, I was chairman of the Hull Casino Gambling Study Committee. We had Hingham opposition, Weymouth opposition. We had we were opposed by almost every South Shore town, because of the traffic situations. Then we were thinking, I says, man, if the Hall Estate doesn't work, maybe we should go to Pedix Island, something like that. So you put it on an island, and then you get with a boat, and it would stop a lot of the traffic coming from here. And then we're thinking, all these different, scenarios, and it didn't work out because once Ed King got thrown out, or not elected, or not the choice of the Democratic Party, Mike Dukakis ended up winning. And you know what happened after that? After a couple of years, he ran for president and didn't make it either. But there's a lot of history. I could keep going. I mean, I want to bore you.
We'd love to hear a little bit about. Right, I look at Hull as a destination, not a conduit to get anywhere else. So everyone who's here is in some way or another choosing to be here because it is a destination. You're not passing through like Weymouth or something where you can drive from one place to the other and just go through it. And it sounds like you've chosen to stay here. So why? What about Hull is worth your consideration and why you chose to stay?
So, like being in construction, I mean, it would be a lot easier for me I should have probably, moved to closer to Boston area. So you're closer to a lot of different jobs. When you leave Hull, look at Dahlia Wonder. He stayed in Hull. They might have bought a couple other places, but the guy, just to get out of here to get to a road, you're blowing 20 minutes almost. So we looked at Braintree, we looked at moving different places. But all my guys were from Hull, and I just says, you know what, we'll just waste the extra time. Because we do a lot of work for Shaw Supermarkets, Star Markets. We do a lot of work for Wegmans. We have some good clients, and we do a lot of work for these big companies, and they make a deal where they give you an hour to get there. They give you an hour and a half sometimes, so it works out. And so we keep a lot of local help. One time we had like 40 guys here, and that's calmed down a lot now. And I'd say the economy is definitely in a stable position right now. I think that everyone's got to be careful. The interest rates are fluctuable. The gas prices are going through the roof. I'm paying $1,000 to build one of my 10-wheelers the other day just to put diesel in it. Now, diesel should be cheaper than gas, but in this country.
Well, listen, we have Democrats on the show, independents like me.
That's right.
All right, but we appreciate all of you.
Yeah. And I say I'm in the middle. So what happened? We're going back a few years. I remember it was 2015 in January. Trump announces that he's running for president. So I had a friend of mine who makes signs. He made a 4x10, a little bigger than a regular piece of plywood, and we had it out front. And one night, someone came and lit it on fire, but it was mostly plastic. So we had interviews of what happened, and it was on some TV shows and news. And then what happened was, the guy calls me on a Saturday morning. He goes, "You better get down to your sign. Some guys they're screwing around with it." So I go, "What, are you shit me?" So I drive by, and this guy's there. I go, "What are you doing?" The guy goes, "I just drove down from Albany, New York, I'm coming here to hand paint the sign. I want to fix it. And then another guy came from White River Junction. He said he was from Vermont. He was going to come and start painting. And then another guy from Southern Maine. I mean, I'm looking at it, I go, this guy might have a shot here. This is only like February, but it was cold out, so I think it was like maybe March. But it was
Shortly after he came down the escalator?
Yeah, that's right after. It was like within a month or so after. And everyone, I remember people saying to me, you're a pretty smart guy. What are you going to vote for him? I go, well, he's in business. He's a businessman. Let's give him a shot instead of being a politician. You don't have to be, everyone has to be a politician. But there's one thing I always remember, no matter who runs, here's a famous line. When I get in, there's going to be term limits. All of a sudden, if you want me out, you vote me out. That's what a term limit is. But we need term limits. We need people to be held accountable. And once a guy gets in, like, say a senator from Massachusetts, I want to say he's running for election right now, they start building these massive, organizations. You can't knock them out. It's impossible.
Impossible.
It's impossible. So you can't do it. So the only way to do something like that is term limits. Another thing I always used to argue with was, say you're a U.S. senator, you want to run for president, you should resign your position. It takes a lot of time to run for president. So if I'm in business and I got all my guys working and I want to run for office, I can't run my business. I have to get someone to run it. So how are you going to run both? If you want to run for president and be on every show there is, and being on a plane and shake your hand, and meanwhile, you're still a senator, U.S. senator, you can't do both jobs. So when a guy runs for another office, you should call it quits. You say, all right, I'm going to run for governor. And that means you resign wherever you were at. That would stop a lot of people from
Actually, there's a guy running right now on the other side. He's a young guy. He's not my favorite for the election, but he has quit his corporate job specifically to run. Where I have doubts is I think he's going to go right back to his very cushy job rather than be the candidate of the people. But to your point, he is focusing on it.
Yeah, you can't focus on both. You gotta give something up, but nobody wants to give it up. The salaries keep coming in, or whatever. I'm not saying the salaries don't mean anything. It's power. And
I do remember though the
power.
Your sign thing. I think you were supported bipartisan. Everybody thought it was horrible that people did that.
It was. A couple of people probably said, I would have burned it myself. I told me. I said, no problem. I put it up again. You get your second shot at it. No problem. But I always said,
I call you the Trump guy.
The guy out.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't even have to get too deep into national politics, obviously, but there's a lot going on in town. You're like an old school contractor that's been involved with Hull for 50 years over the years. Paragon Park in particular, like what's your memory, earliest memories?
I remember I was working there, working on rides for Larry Stone, and then I worked at Joseph's. It was
what year you started working there?
I was 14 years old, so 60. I'd say 64, 65, something like that.
Wow.
Probably young, in that area, because you couldn't work after 5 or 6 o'clock at night when you were too young. Once you hit 16, you can go to, a little later after 6. But I think everyone in Hull, when Paragon Park was here, I remember in one of my class reunions, one of the guys says, who did not work at Paragon Park, and I don't think anyone raised their hand. If it wasn't the park, it was Funland next door, or one of the places that sold food or anything down there. And I remember 4th of July, you couldn't get into Hull. You had the fireworks. The line would be all the way to Weymouth. Hull was like a destination. It always was. It probably still could be, but we probably don't really need the destination like we used to have. But, one time it started to get to a restaurant place. You could have a lot of restaurant destinations. We got some fine restaurants in Hull.
Something we talked about recently, but it's coming up soon, and I'm interested in your view on it. Is Hingham's changing the 2 lanes from the Rotary, right?
Crazy.
From the Rotary all the way to the fish shop over there, right?
Yeah, that's a crazy move. It works now. It works with 2 lanes. When you start going to 1 lane, you got people taking a left or a right. Now you're backing up. There's got to be a backup. It's not gonna work. This is all political, something to do with, I can't really put my finger on it, but it's something to do with someone who has a lot of big houses in
This
in
is
the Hingham area.
this is Hingham Select
Yeah.
Board decision. I was
Yeah,
told.
it was not a good decision.
It's
Now,
just
how,
done, it's
I don't know
done.
how they could do it. They slowly started doing some intersections, but to
Wait,
do-
wait a minute. You're suggesting there's a Hingham landowner that might have had some influence over this decision? Is that what
I
you're saying?
definitely did. There's no doubt about it.
Hmm.
And you know, it's like you said, if you control, I mean, we have a state rep. She probably should know what's going on with that. I'm not sure how she voted in favor in it, but I don't think it ever came. You know, it affects Hull more than Hingham, and all of us come. They don't realize it's going to kill us. And when you
Is this a derivative of the road diet that they did a few years back?
That's right.
yeah, they had those
Yeah, my
things
friend's
on the
MGM
road.
Grande project manager on that, and he's like, Kim, I don't know how Hull's going to how they're going to handle it.
We had
It,
traffic.
it really didn't work. It didn't work
No.
with the test. They're still going forward. It'd be like the train. They pushed the train through. When I was a young guy, I was on the planning board, South Shore 228 study committee. And you know, 228, all the land is really, I think we still own it. It comes up through Muzzey's Corner, goes through the woods behind the East School, and it comes out in Norwell, you know, Queen Anne's Corner. It's still, I think the land was already taken. 228 could be put in. There'll be a quick road back to the highway. But one of the things I proposed when I was a young guy, I would say, geez, why are we going to put a train in Situate, or why are we going to bring a train through Hingham and Graston? Why don't we just go to the Hingham shipyard? There was a railroad bridge there once. Remember, there was a bridge,
Yeah.
and they took it down. That was a railroad bridge when they built the ships, so they wouldn't screw up the traffic on 3A. So we could have had something like that. It wouldn't have to be as high, but you would have had.
That's a good point, because if you think about going up Wallaston, you wind up at a railroad bridge on the Neponset Bridge. So there's got to be interconnection.
Yeah.
Way.
So you could have had the trains there, the ships there, you know, the boats to Boston. Could have buses there instead of driving through Situate. You look at that train. There's nobody on that train. On a weekend, it's a lot of waste of money. 5 or 6 cars with more than 2 faces on it. I mean, maybe we should shut the train down on the weekend. I mean, what are you going to do? The people are going to get to Boston. Well, I mean, it's costing us a lot of money to run that. It's finally starting to work a little better, but the train was rammed down our throats through a Republican.
Train was flying.
Salucci, yeah.
Yeah, he actually could have, they could have stopped it, but everyone wanted it. They thought it was going to be the next great thing, you know. So I don't think it's working as good as they think. It's getting better, but the weekends are killing us. There's nobody on them trains.
When you think of the spokes of the commuter rail, I think the North Shore did it first, then Greenbush, and now finally they've got the South Coast Rail operating. But it's been a long ride to get all of the different spokes from Boston.
It is. Well, we used to have the biggest. You remember the boats used to come in the hull every couple hours. We'd have a boat pull into the Itasca Pier.
We can't do it anymore.
No,
we can't do it anymore.
Yeah. So what happened was, I remember we'd be, on the Italian side, my mother would get us as little kids, throw us on the boat, and we go to Boston. Everyone's coming. No one went to Boston in a 90-degree day. We're the only nuts. I go, where are we going? We're going to see a grandmother in North End. Why you want to go swimming? They throw us on the boat, and to get on the boat, you had to wait for 1,000 people to get off. They're all coming to Hull with food, baggage, clothes, chairs, and we're going the other way. So, I mean, the summer's here. We had, you'd have 50, 60,000 people here, maybe 100,000. Some nights, I'd say when we had the big fireworks, you'd have hundreds of thousands. We had 20, 30 bar rooms. You try to do that bar, one drink a bar one night. We tried that sometimes.
It sounds like a Dot Ave pub crawl.
Dot Ave.
Never did it again. Never did it again. Yeah,
So-
you can't do that.
A real big subject, obviously, Paul, is your land up here was designated as the MBTA housing site,
Right.
and I think Hull has no appetite for big developments right now, none.
No, I think.
And then I think
lot
people
of-
would appreciate at least your views on, you strike me as a guy who has over the years, done well and acquired properties in a lot of different areas, and you like it, and you like having them, and you like holding on to them.
Yeah, I don't really. There's not much I sell. I didn't sell too many things. But I was gonna say one of the important thing about, you have the property, this and that. But I like, what happens is, if you start getting neighbors and you start making noise, so you try to buy out people. Before you know it, you end up accumulating sufficient people that don't bother you anymore. So you try to keep the neighbors happy as much as possible. I think I've done a pretty good job. It's not easy home to do what I do with dirt and stuff like that. But I mean, have I been offered crazy money here for this place? But I'm not going anywhere. And
you could say you're providing a green service to the town, because I'll tell you, every construction person that has to move material, whether it's construction debris on soil, concrete, whatever it is, the next closest place is a long drive away.
Yeah, we have so we're actually doing an economic good thing for the Department of DEP by taking stuff and we grind it and reuse it again. So otherwise, this stuff would end up in people's backyards that you're not supposed to dump and stuff.
Is there any connection to capping the land? When they cap the landfill, do they fill it with dirt, or am I on the wrong path there?
No, that's going to be filled with clay. It has to be a clay that meets a certain spec the state has, and I'll have plenty of that if I can. When that comes out, we're going to be contacting whoever's bidding the job. But we have plenty. Now the problem with clay is you can't get rid of it. So every time you build a hull on any hill, on a Green Hill, Strawberry Hill, the Village, or Allerton Hill, it's the worst dirt you could ever imagine. The stuff it's useless, and when there's nowhere to dump it, so we're running out of space. I can't even take any more of that. But clay, some people get $30-$40 a yard just to dump it. So you have a 20-yard truck, you're talking, $40, $800 to dump one load. And, people building swimming pools and stuff, they got nowhere to dump. And in Weymouth, they start sending me people. I can't take any more. There's no place to go all the way out to Hanover, Hanson. It's running out of space. So by the dump getting capped, that would alleviate a lot of my piles. I could, so it would help.
That'd be a win-win.
Yeah, it would be great.
So, speaking of Wynn, I met Steve Wynn. He was a client of a company I work for, and we were doing the renovations in his Manhattan penthouse. And he's legally blind. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, I know. But he sees shadows.
So he was thinking about playing poker and having a poker face. He keeps pushing the envelope. I want you to keep it this bright, this bright, this bright, this bright. Finally, our PhD electric guy was like, I am not going to break the code. I have stretched it, no pun intended, as far as I can. And then Steve just said, okay, because you knew he was just seeing how far he could go. But then he knew, game over. I'm going to take this. It's the best they're going to do. But it was the brightest townhouse that they've ever done in terms of intensity of lights that he needed for his place. I've seen him speak a couple times. Definitely a dynamic guy.
I actually was against the Encore because I'm not against gambling. I like to gamble myself, but I was against it because I always thought it should have went to Suffolk Downs. We would have had a race. I said, you got 200, Suffolk Downs, there's not enough room. There's 200 acres there. They could have put the racetrack under a glass. You could have ran all those horses all with them. It's a great thing. I mean, there's no more action than going to a place where you see horses, running. We got rid of the dogs. I mean, you had dog tracks.
Yeah,
and then there's a fluent business that they just get voted out. How can you vote somebody? Pretty soon, they got to vote out people digging foundations pretty soon. I don't know. You just can't just vote people's. You know what they said? Oh, only a few hundred people work there. A few hundred people. They're by feeding the doctors, the whatever, veterinarians, the people moving the dogs. You're talking thousands of dogs, thousands of.
You brought up dogs. There's one really good story. Paul's got $1 million. He's my softball manager too. And when you spend that much time with somebody, there's nobody with more stories, funny stories too. But there's one where you tell a story about the old days when you were a teenager. A friend of yours came over and one of the goats had escaped from his dad's property.
Oh yeah, so the police called the house one day, and it says it was cold out, so it was like a 10-degree morning. I was at early afternoon, and my father goes, "Son of a gun, that goddamn goat got it. We gotta go get him." So he ran into the Hall estate.
Oh my goodness.
We were. So we chased the goat, and this friend of mine, I won't say names, but he goes, "Mr. Gratta, there's the goat." So my father goes and pulls his knife out, kills the goat, stabs him right on the spot, puts him over his shoulder, because he ain't gonna run away anymore. And then he's walking out, the police cruiser's at the door. And he goes, meanwhile, the guy who sees all this, he's stopping to go, what, he can't believe what happened. He's walking out to the road, and the cop says, "Hey, what happened to the goat?" He goes, "I fell off the rocks." "What? They climb rocks." "He ain't gonna run anymore, the son of a bitch," he said. So we had a good dinner that night, I'll tell you that.
I was gonna ask you if you put it in curry.
One thing about goat, no cholesterol,
No, I'd say it is. That's funny.
Now it's a delicacy. You gotta go to Cambridge to buy it. But we have this Italian feast every year at Hingham.
I was just going to bring that up. Yeah.
So
I'm one of the leaders.
I'm gonna have to check that out next year.
It's not an invite only, but you have to know about it. You have to. It's like Hull. You have to consciously make the effort and the drive to go to this place, find it, and then drive through some woods.
It's on Oak Street. It's off 228. We have, we'll have a mass at 11 o'clock. It'll be, we used to do it in Italian, but we can't find any Italian priests. So we have, so one year, I'll tell you a quick story. So there's a priest from Rhode Island. He comes up, and I'm parking cars. We park sometimes 400 cars, and we're parking them, and all of a sudden the priest says, "Make sure you don't block me in." Probably about 35, 40-year-old priest. So I go, "I'll do the best I can." So one of my guys parks like 2 cars behind me. This guy got out. He goes, "Hey, I effing told you I got to get the F out of here." The priest. I look at him. I go, "What?" Look at the. Yeah. I go, "You got to confess." Yeah. He goes, "I told you." I go, so we have involved each other, and there was a gangster there. I can't mention his name, but he was walking up. And he goes, "Whoa, you got to pick a fight with a priest?" I go, "He started it." He said, "I didn't pick it."
That's awesome.
Terrible, believe me. But he didn't come back anymore, so we lost him. He only lost him.
But this feast is about as close as you can get to being, I think, in Italy.
Yeah,
without being there. All right, it's a picnic table.
I'm taking an eye up for next year.
People bring their own food.
It's always a day before Labor Day.
Homemade wine. There's a dance platform and a band. Usually, one of the North End Italian bands will come. There is a chapel and a Madonna set back with money is pinned to the all sorts of stuff like that.
It's a great time. It's a family thing. So everyone brings their own food. It's not like we're out there trying to sell tacos or, I bet one year this Chinese friend of mine who owns a restaurant shows up with 2 big bags of Chinese food. Now, we're all Italian here. You know what all my relatives, they've done hell with the Chinese. They ran for the Chinese food. They didn't care about the spaghetti meatballs. They attacked
Those spaghetti come from China?
You got chicken
wings. That a myth?
All right.
But we didn't hear that, Kim. Sorry.
Oh, no. Doesn't spaghetti come from China? Is that a myth?
That's the way it started. That's what you call the noodles.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
I guess Marco Polo must have spilled some tomato sauce. But don't forget, tomatoes weren't in Italy either. They came from here. It's called a pomodoro, which means the golden apple. And when Columbus brought it back, that's what it started. Otherwise, the tomato came from America, North America, I guess, or so, whatever, in this area.
So 1492, tomato in Italy.
Hispaniola. That's where he landed. Now they try to take that all.
That's Maria, and I forgot the other one.
We got that back.
How's your dad doing? How old?
My father's 96 and a half. And
oh my goodness.
He still plants about, well, actually, he cut down to about 60, 70 tomato plants, but he goes on the garden every day. The harder, the better. He usually takes off from like 11 or 2, and then go back in the afternoon. He still cuts my hair. And
he does, yeah.
Yeah, he still cuts it. And, my brother Vito. And but
that's awesome. He's
unbelievable. The guys climb ladders, cleaning the leaves out of the gutters, I go, "What are you doing? You're going to fall off the ladder, then you're going to die." He goes, "Oh, you're going to do it?" I go, "All right, go do it."
It's almost like it's a little blue zone down here, isn't it?
Yeah.
We have to live longer and well.
It's funny thing about getting back to that feast thing we do. It's We got the banderoma comes in the morning. So we start a procession on 228, walk about a quarter of a mile with the saint. They carry the saint just like the North End. We'll stop at a couple of people's houses. Then we put it in the, when we have the mass. Then you'll have a mass. And then we'll start eating at about 1 o'clock. And then by 5 o'clock, the music starts at about 4. Some unbelievable bands and some of these little bands that we hire. We don't usually make a profit, but we try to break even because the band's $2 or $3 grand, $4 grand. On the road at $1,500, and so we try to break even. We're recorded, Massachusetts, whatever section, whatever that thing is, 501, whatever it is. So we're all, legitimate and all that stuff. But we up there every once a month, and we'll do our own cooking. We say we go up there and clean up, we clean the leaf, rake the leaves. We're getting ready, and then we all cook. Like 1 week will be one time we have pig parts, the knuckles and the feet. When you break them open, there's like delicacies there. And then another time we roast the damari, all mussels, clams, and scallops. Another time will be goat. Every month we change it around, and then we get to the feast. And then after we do the feast, we'll come the day after and clean up, and then we come a couple more times till it gets cold. But we have no heat up there, so we just shut the water off in the winter. But hey, it's open. And anytime you want to come, it's always the day before Labor Day. It's a Labor Day weekend. And I'll tell you, sometimes we're well over 1,000 people there. And
it's gonna put it on my calendar.
They'll say, "What the hell is this, Salem?" No, yeah, what do you think it is? And then,
Hingham's interesting because I grew up mostly. I'm originally from Dorchester, but I spent a lot of years in South Weymouth. And there were these 3 houses at the end of a street in South Weymouth. Then the highway comes, and then we would run across Route 3 back then and go to the Hingham quarries. So wherever they decided to put the highway, there's just these 3 houses. I jumped
there,
once into
Manelli's Pit. Margaret's Pit.
That's what that's
or JF Price, one of them guys. They have a lot of.
Yeah, I remember jumping into the water and being terrified, and I never did it again. Never.
Yeah.
But the guys
water moccasins in there one day. I think I ran the mile in 3 seconds.
That's my fear. That's my fear.
We intentionally didn't want to take up a lot of your Saturday. We appreciate you coming on. I think Jake might have a couple of questions.
Yeah. So when you think about Hull today versus when you first started recognizing where in the world you were, as a youngster, how it's changed, how do you think it's going to go, say, in the next 50 to 100 years? And do you feel good about it, or do you feel like something's missing for you to feel good about Hull's future?
Well, we're not going to go back to the, if you go back to the 1800s and you read Doc Bergen's book, Hull was probably premier place in the country. And then, as you get older, then we had Paragon Park. Those days are gone. We're not going to get that back. And Hull, even though once you get past Paragon Park, Hull was always like a better community, I'd say. And I think we're getting back to that. But a lot of people who moved out of here, a lot of, I say Catholic, Jewish families, they all, because Hull we were like, if you wanted to live cheap, you always come and bought a little summer house, no insulation. You freeze your ass off in the winter. But all these houses got fixed up. Then as they got older, they moved out to Sharon, Dedham, whatever. Now these people are coming back because, we're probably one of the hottest real estates in the South Shore.
No question.
No question about it. People are knocking. I just knocked 2 houses down the last couple of weeks. We knocked them down on Sagamore Hill.
Tell us what
crazy.
A small lot with a small little tiny cottage right now today, and I just got news that one's going up that I know about, and I can't believe the price. What's it going?
$600,000 to $800,000
for the land itself.
The guy just paid $600,000. He paid $700,000. It's on Bay Street. Knocked both down. It was the first 2 houses when you got the Bay Street coming from Water Street. We're doing the work there, but he knocked 2 houses out, $700,000. He's gonna put another $1.5 million, $2 million. There's 2 houses next door. The 2-family next door sold, which was done over, sold for $1.1 million each side. It's hot, real hot. And
my mother crossed the border from Cohasset in the early 2000s, and back then she took the money from the Cohasset house and she was in the Hall Estates. But since that time, the appreciation and property values is just insane.
Yeah,
And
it's
Hull.
crazy. And
Keeps going up.
what else? I mean, we take it. I mean, look at it. People, they were upset with Paragon Park. I know we call it Funland, but it's Prococo companies. You know, they're doing the Procopio. I'll tell you what, that's a high class organization. We did some checking. We did some work. We did the demo for the original buildings that were there. These guys are high class. They're coming
Absolutely.
They're not doing condos. You know why? They want to have full control. When you do condos, you lose your control. So these guys want to control what their properties are going to do. So, I mean, you got high rise next door. Everyone's against the thing. Meanwhile, the guy comes to a meeting. He's in a high rise, and they're saying you can't build next door. Well, I mean, you know, so now that's what are 40-foot height limits. When I was on the planning board, we had unlimited height. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
There was no height limit in Hull. So we went down to 70 feet. I remember one of the meetings I was chairman, the guy wanted to kill me. He comes up and he goes, "Why'd you put it to 40? I says, you know, you can't go from unlimited. You sell it to keep it a high rise because you're taking a person's property and you're devaluing it because of the restrictions from zoning. They have a right to sue us." And I was on the Mass Federation of Planning Boards. And we had a lot of stuff. And I was on the planning board, I'd say 20 years. And we did
20 years?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I got elected when I was before 20, and Hull. That's when Hull started to take off. My first house I bought was a 3-family, 25 grand. And I couldn't make the first 2 payments.
Wow.
I mean, you know. I mean, so now that 3-family is worth 800, 700. I mean, look, we got some. Look at the views. You drive through Hull.
God, yeah.
Yeah, you go to. It's like being on Hingham on Otis Street. You know, you're looking at the water, but we have the ocean and the bay. We got World's End. You got, you know, this people are paying $1 million. I'm doing a house now on Edgewater Road. They paid $1.1 million, I think, and they're going to be putting another $1.5 million into a house, and people, I mean, it's crazy. And some of these lots are so small. You know, the stamps, and they're going for $1 million each. It doesn't matter.
I couldn't agree with you more on the Procopio project because I'm one of the few that stood in support of that project. And to your point, they know how to build in coastal environments. They're not going to skip on materials, I don't think. And I like the rental concept because some of the condos, I think you wind up getting snowbirds that go down to Florida. These people are going to be here year round. That's my hope for the property. And that they're going to activate the first floor, have people milling about. But they are, for developers, I think that I'd give them a high grade compared to what could have gone there.
Yeah, another thing that Hull we're not taking advantage of is we're not. I mean, yeah, you know, you got parking. All right, so we got the HRA. Well, it's there. I mean, you got 900 spaces to 1,000 spaces here, and then you limit it down to 500. You know, people got to get relief too. You know, it's 100 degrees in Brockton. That poor guy, why can't he come down and go swimming in the summer? But all of a sudden, there's nowhere to park. I mean, we got the park. We always had it. Maybe, and all of a sudden, hey, we're going to restrict it. We don't want all them people here. We're going to shut it down.
They voted for it.
And how much do we got now?
On the position that, and it's a valid position that you got to stop. People need to stop being trained that there's not going to be that much parking.
Someday.
At some point, there's not, and that's the argument is that they want to make people aware that it's going to happen pretty soon. So I don't know.
Yeah, but you never know. Whoever builds, I'll give you a concept. HRA, you took people's land. The people who displaced on.
Yeah, what's your view on the HRA?
So they have displaced people. They got their properties taken care of.
76 homes.
Yeah, and it's still there's a video on it. You can go on YouTube. I think it's done by Paul Lever. But you show every house that was there and stuff. I was a kid. There was a brand new post office, probably less than 10 years old. They knocked it down. New gas station. There was
on that property.
Yeah, there was a gas station. The Hull Medical Center that came from down there. You know, the builder was moved. All this stuff that we had. So, in them days, we had all these people still coming to Hull, and they found parking. I mean, no one wants. I don't want someone parking in my front yard, but you know, and so we do have a parking problem. But we do have a train station that's not too far away, and we don't have shuttle service. I mean, it could have something that's run just from the train station or from the vault. Maybe the thing should make a loop from the train station to the Hingham shipyard, and then go back to Hull. And, instead of, the regular Hingham bus, you go a little further. Instead of getting off 2 different buses to do this, you could probably do it on one. Or maybe we should run something that, people would probably pay. Even if you break even, you don't always have to make money. Sometimes, if you make a profit, it's nice. Profit is not a dirty word. People don't build. You think Rickover's going to build that project so he can break even and lose money? I don't think so.
Absolutely right.
Yeah. So as far as the HRA goes, I'm a believer in the higher you go, the more open space you have. Now, there's a spot where you're not going to really affect anyone. So you'd be in the middle. So if you took a building in the middle and went up, I don't know, say 10, 20 stories, I don't know, whatever you want, put up three or four things of pocket underneath, 3 or 4 floors. You get yourself out of the floodplain, and then the whole place could be open. So you could spread out 200 units throughout the whole place, or maybe 100 units on a medium rise, 80, 8, 10 stories. But don't forget, the higher you go, the more open space you end up with. So we had set.
You're making me think of John Chaparo's 2 towers by the Boston Harbor.
Right.
I think they're the Boston Harbor apartments. They're skinny and they're tall, but the views aren't that compromised. And I'm going to state right now, I'm not saying that's my position because I don't want to get attacked. I say I want Chaparo towers, but I understand the inclination to think that way.
Yeah. So the higher you go, the more open space. But if you go low rise, you build next to each other. So, but there's good low rise development. So we have the right here with a Hall Estate. That's a nice little setup. They just finished the aquarium. I don't know what's going on there. There's having they're saying financial
Change of
problems,
ownership.
Yeah, they should be all right. They'll work out. And then we have the ones that Dave Bowen built up in the hill. Everyone's full. You can't even get in there. They're going 800 to $1 million a piece. We have a lot of good little development there, but now they're talking about 8 or 9 houses on the Kelly property down by XYZ.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to build houses. I mean, he's going through a lot of stuff, this guy, trying to get it going.
It's Chris Real, isn't it?
Well, we're running out of electricity, right?
It's not,
Are we running
Jake.
out of electricity?
We are. We need more capacity.
Yeah.
I think that we're going to get it eventually, but in the meantime, I suggested last September, Pat Cannon and I did that Hull Light procures a grid scale battery because that would bridge the gap between where we are now, where we'll be in 2027 when we know we're right up against the limit or past it, and where we could get to, say, 6-7 years from then with a new feeder line.
That's what I was saying. Another thing, we're arguing about, the generators. I mean, I don't know. I voted against it, but obviously it passed. Most people wanted it, but I'm just saying. Well, I mean, we should probably get everyone at Hull. Probably, there's like 10,000 of us. We all get a chainsaw. We should just walk up through these Hingham and just chop everything down. What they got to do? 2 links. What they got to stop us? It's a.
Something like that. Something like that might have happened at the cemetery recently. It wasn't taken.
No,
didn't they just do that on Nantasket Ave?
It's not really going to happen, but you know what I'm saying. I think you're not going to beat. We're not going to beat. Was it National Grid who takes care of us or whatever? But you got them on the run for a little while, and they did do some changes, I guess, right? Something like that happened or whatever.
They did do some trimming, yes. We did get that.
But we have a great light company. I got to say one thing. I mean, these guys. I mean, what happened with that last storm? Everyone say, "Oh, what are you going to do?" Well, generators run the whole town. I mean, a couple of huge trees come down, knocking over transformers, poles. Those guys are right in the middle of the storm. You got some good guys down here who really.
Oh God, yeah.
And we're pretty lucky because when I was a kid, we never lost power. Trees grow, and no one's pruning them back. And we don't spend money on seawalls. Obviously, now we're wasting money on seawalls.
What are you wasting?
I'd say that seawall down there is way overbuilt.
Think
Could have
so?
been a lot cheaper, a lot different design. I'd say
It's first in the state design.
Yeah.
First in the state. First time it's going to be a good prototype.
I actually met a guy that's pouring the concrete for that. I did a closing for him, and he was pulling in the driveway right when I was, and I said, "Oh, where you come from?" Hull. And I'm like, "Oh, I live in Hull." And I saw the concrete, and I said, "Oh, what are you doing?" He's like, "I'm working on the seawall." And I said, "Huge controversy." Now, his opinion was he thought it should be higher, which I can't imagine it being higher.
We cut the old wall down. They cut it down 2 feet. You know, the wall that was there. I always said, I mean, do I know my concrete and do I know my seawalls? I work for Ernie Minelli, and he was a premier seawall builder. I say that I wanted to do an underpinning. You know, you do like 100 feet and then you skip 100, and then we put a wall under it, and then we put riprap. That old wall would have stayed up. That wall was, was the wall going to fall over? When it happened, we would have dealt with it. But you know what? That wall wasn't going anywhere. It had a couple of surface cracks. I mean, structural cracks. And they're saying there was never any rebar in it, but the rebar disintegrates inside the cement. So it was definitely rebar in it, but that was probably gone by then. We lost the whole lane of road there. You know, we had to put an underground water line, underground electric, all this stuff that the town had. I bet it cost us $15 million. I don't even know what the bid was, but it's got to be a lot of money.
What's wild to me is conservation director in Hull actually, admitted that the seawall along Newport Ave, and that design done by the Army Corps of Engineers is one of the best around, but they can't duplicate it because of the current regulations.
You can't meet the guy.
Oh,
They
wow.
can't build that same seawall in other areas.
That was built by Signorella Brothers and Ernie Minelli. That was $700,000. Imagine that. Whole
Really?
seawall.
Wow.
All the way from Newport all the way to the dike. And then when you come across to Edgewater, no, Dantaska Road.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
I just saw that for the
perfect
first
shape.
time about a month ago.
It's
a
in
couple
great
inches.
shape still, yeah.
Yeah, it needs a little surface work. I mean, you get spalding of concrete. In Hull, we had guys. We used to fix seawalls all the time. They had like 20 to 40,000 in a budget. We go down and fix around Jake's or whatever. But you should have. I mean, the state should grant. There's got to be some grants there where we're protecting everyone. Hingham without us doing good. We protect the Hingham. Cohasset really not. If you look, Cohasset has rocks. So a guy who has millions of dollars, he doesn't want to build on Beach Ave. He'd rather go on Jerusalem Road where he sits on a rock. That's why all the mansions on Rhode Island are on cliffs, because they don't want to spend the insurance. They're on a safe place where you're safe. Over here, when you got Beach Ave and stuff, you got the sand dunes. Do they work? Of course they work. They work, but then they can't hold too long. They start, getting. Is there other things we could have done? No, there's, that's a whole different setup. But the beach is down as far as elevations from where it was. We used to go down with dozers, and we push up the beach every spring, and then they cover the rocks. Now, you can't do much. You got plovers there, and you got, there's a lot of stuff that wasn't there when we were kids. Or we didn't really know about. But no one does any beach remediation, like pushing back. No one's fixing seawalls. There's no money in any town budget that says like $100,000 to repair seawalls. There's a little crack here, little things like that go a long way. We're not doing the main.
Well, it's part of our infrastructure. We should be doing stuff like that. Absolutely, it should be part of capital.
Maintenance is more important than
Absolutely.
Don't do maintenance. We'll just sell the place. Whatever. We can't sell the town. We got to keep it. So we got to start looking at maintenance. We're not doing enough maintenance.
That's a good perspective. A quote right there. We can't sell the town.
Yes.
You need to be reminded of that.
And deferred maintenance.
Like bucks a day.
Deferred maintenance is not a strategy.
So one thing I just want to throw out there, and they just had the first meeting of the Public Safety Building Committee, and I think potentially part of your land up here where the houses are could be. And my only question is this: I don't care about the number and anything else. Are you willing to sit down with the town? You have a decent relationship with the town. At least have a discussion.
Yes.
Excellent. That's the only question. And I encourage them to give you a call. I encourage the committee actually to give you a call and bring you in.
The other thing too.
Do it publicly, but we'll see how that goes.
I'd say the 8th Street property that's closed now. They used to be the 7-Eleven. Then you got next door where the buses are.
DeVito's, yeah.
Yeah, that's great police fire station thing.
It does seem logical.
Yeah, that's pretty central. Right now everything's up here, but that's pretty central. And I think they're both, even though someone just bought the A Street, used to be liquor, whatever, the 7-Eleven, whatever it was. I think that guy would probably, he'd turn around and let it go. I'm not sure on the DeVito property, but I'm sure that there could be a number on that too. And that would be a reasonable buy. That's what I think those would be centrally located. As far as the highway department goes, they're in a location now that, they're saying floodplain, this and that. That building where the highway department is, that's pretty solid building.
You talking about the DPW?
That building's on pylons. That building's not on regular foundation. That's on pylons. That building's dead perfect.
Straight as a pin.
Straight as a pin. But the floor's sinking a little because you're on they probably didn't dig the peat out, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that building's definitely probably one of the strongest safe, it's on some serious solid foundation. And they're looking to move that, make it new. I mean, look at the Hingham Police Department. They just built a new one on 3A. That's only $60 million there. It's we have. So we're not as big as Hingham, but we're gonna spend 30 million, 40 million. I don't know where we getting all this.
I thought the number was 50 that they said.
50 million. So I mean, we're gonna
62 and a half.
So you're gonna get
2 and a half was presented for the side of the building proposed to build. About 57,500 square feet.
So you look at it, it's probably 500.
Too big.
But like I said, the cost of everything goes up.
Absolutely.
People, we got to pay taxes, and it gets to a point where you got to keep. What are you going to raise the rents on everyone every time? You can't when you're raising the rents on, people can't afford to live there. So what happens is you're driving people out of here. So if people live there their whole lives, they got to move to Carolina. Do they want to move to Carolina? No, they don't want to move to Carolina. But we're driving them out of here. So all of a sudden, hey, the rent's $2,000. Next year, the guy buys a building. He could raise the rent to $2,400. They can't afford to live here. So we're driving people out of here. So we're driving our own people out of here. And it's not a good thing because you're losing the integrity of, this is a blue collar town. People work. I mean, is Hull never going to be a blue collar town? I think it's always going to be a blue collar town. But it's going back to our bedroom community. We have nothing to offer. We're not taking advantage of fishing like we do. We don't have the trawlers coming in like we do. We don't have a fish producing place. Like the boat, he's stealing all our clams. He's there every day, clamming on the back and forth on the beach. I don't get clams anymore. We used to get the clams all the time on a big. You got a nor'easter, you get clams. There's not even a clam.
Oh my goodness! Go down to the beach after a nor'easter. I live on the corner of Q, and then they actually came up onto the street.
Not lately, because the guy's grabbing them all.
Yeah, that's true. You and Jake are neighbors, actually.
We are?
Yeah.
Oh, you live in the Hall Estate?
Yep.
Oh, great. That's a nice little community. Wait, which one you in? The Hall Estate or the one, Lincoln property?
The Avalon now.
Avalon.
Yep.
Oh, that was 162 units. They kind of built it pretty nice.
I think so.
They're getting pretty good. You're getting pretty good rents. We getting just as high rent as Hingham. And Cohasset's gone crazy, but there's no place to rent there. But I mean, like you said, what's a 2-bedroom over there's got to be 2,500 and 3,000 all day long, or 3,500. I don't know. More money is it? I don't know.
It's up cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, this stuff.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you, Paul.
Oh, it's so nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll get together. I'll see you at the feast. That'll be
absolutely.
That would be great.
Let me up. I'll bring some nice Italian wine.
No problem.
Get
we call it Guinea red. That's to say it. You can't say that. No, okay.
I can deal with that.
I knew we would get through this without something slipping out.
Have
There you go.
a wonderful Easter.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you.
Thanks, everyone.
You guys.
Bye. Yikes.